Welcome to Hoardganize with professional organizer Rachel Seavey. Every Sunday at 6 p.m., Rachel shares her expertise and compassionate approach to help you deal with overwhelming clutter. Rachel?
Hey, collectors! Welcome to the Hoardganize Podcast. I'm your host, professional organizer Rachel Seavey, and today we're talking about a 4-letter word that starts with an F. No, it's not a bad word, so get that one out of your mind. I am talking about fear. A lot of the times, it might be hard for you to understand what exactly is holding you back from getting organized, especially when you're overwhelmed. Part of you might want to let go of everything and live an organized lifestyle. But then there's another part of you that just hangs on to the life that you're living right now, the one that you don't really want. We call that ambivalence. Part of you wants something and part of you doesn't. And I work with collectors every day, just like you. And what you really get down to, what it really is that holds you back from getting organized is fear. That's my 4-letter F word. Now, if you're scoffing and chuckling and saying that you are not afraid of anything, then you specifically should be listening to this podcast. When I talk about fear, I'm referring to all sorts of circumstances. A lot of the times there are several things that people are afraid of when it comes to getting organized. There are many things that people are afraid of when it comes to getting organized. I have 5 top reasons that I believe people are afraid to get organized. My guess is that you, my dear collectors, have at least one of these fears, and maybe this is what's holding you back. Getting organized requires you to do some reflection. It requires you to look into yourself. I really want you to take some time to think about your personal situation and be honest with yourself. Are you afraid? Here are my 5 reasons why collectors are afraid to get organized. Number 1, which is a really big one, is the fear of failing. This is a big one, collectors. The fear of failing. Why start if you keep telling yourself you'll never get it done? Something in your head is telling you to not even start before because you're never going to finish. So let me ask you something. Are you a fortune teller? Are you clairvoyant? Do you honestly know what the future has in store for you? Well, if you keep manifesting these negative thoughts and truly believe in your heart that you're never going to get organized, then you never will. You are setting yourself up for failure. Once again, you are in your own way, collectors. Where your focus goes, energy flows. It's one of my favorite Tony Robbins quotes. Stop telling yourself you'll never get it done or you'll never get it done. You are lying to yourself. You're creating this false fear. You're not a fortune teller. And you're holding yourself back with your negative thoughts. They're not real. You cannot predict the future. You can only have control over the present. So, if the fear of failure in the future is holding you back, don't worry, collectors. I will have some tips for you in a few. The second biggest fear that collectors have of getting organized is FOMO, the fear of missing out. The what ifs. What if I need it one day? Well, you can go out and buy it again, dear collectors. You might think that just when you get rid of whatever particular item that you're getting rid of, that you might need it again in the future. And again, you're telling yourself this constantly, and now you believe it. So you're afraid to let items go because you might need them in the future. Wow, you are all really clairvoyant. I just got to give you a hand. You're fortune tellers. I should be asking you guys for next year's lottery numbers. You know, you're very, very clairvoyant. I'm just trying to make a point. You have no idea. If you haven't used it in like 10 years, 5 years, 1 year, 6 months, even, just get rid of it. It's literally holding you back. The fear of missing out is literally holding you back. You have all this clutter around you because what if you need it one day? Well, today you're miserable. So let's focus on today. Let's focus on the present. It's what you have control over. Stop telling yourself that you might need something in the future because you know what? If you might need it in the future, you can go out and get it again. But you haven't used it in this long. You haven't needed it. Okay? So stop convincing yourself to keep things because you might need it in the future. Stop being afraid of letting things go. The third reason that collectors are afraid of being organized, this is a huge one. I mean, they're all big, but the fear of being wasteful. No one likes to be wasteful, okay? I'm sure you originally did not have intentions to be wasteful or to be in the situation you're in. However, don't hang on to items so that you don't appear wasteful. First of all, you don't even let anyone in your home, so they don't know if you're being wasteful or not. So let's stop kidding ourselves. And so if you're afraid that you're going to be judged as wasteful, that's baloney. I mean, you don't even let people in. Who's going to see you getting rid of things? I mean, the garbage people, are they going to call you wasteful? The donation people are going to be very grateful and thankful to you. So stop it. Stop lying to yourselves. Do you put yourself down and you call yourself wasteful so much that it scares you to let things go? It's the guilt, it's the fear, it's I don't want to be wasteful. Maybe you were raised with that waste not, want not mentality. You know, you were told about all these horrible things going along the world and that you're so lucky to have all these things, so you've got to hang on to them. Or maybe you were in the Depression yourself, or you've got parents that were raised in the Depression era, and being wasteful is something that could literally cost you a meal or clothing on your back. So some people have some true fears that were originally rooted in them. But honestly, collectors, I mean, you're turning your house into either a storage unit or a landfill so that people that you don't let in your home might judge you about being wasteful. I want you to think about that. You're so afraid to throw away expired food, to throw away clothing with holes in it, that you hang on to it and you create this horrible mess in your home. You don't let anyone in, but yet you're afraid to let things go because these hypothetical people might call you wasteful, or you call yourself wasteful. If you're calling yourself wasteful for getting rid of actual garbage, knock it off. You're holding yourself back. Sometimes you do need to be a little wasteful when it comes to decluttering. Okay? Recycle as much as you can. Donate as much as you can. And anything that's waste, let it go. You probably should have let it go years ago. The fourth reason that I've picked of collectors, why you beautiful collectors are afraid of letting go of your stuff, is the fear of being left with nothing. Now, I can kind of personally relate to you all that might have this fear. I grew up incredibly poor, really had nothing. And so I could understand why someone who's become successful has begun to acquire things, because that feeling of not having anything was scary. When I was young, not having anything, that was scary. Not having money for food, not having any clothing, not knowing where I would sleep at night, that was really scary. So if you've ever been in that kind of situation and now you're hanging on to items because you're afraid that you're going to be left with nothing, this is again a false fear. You know, if the thought of decluttering scares you or reminds you of a time when you had nothing, then you're just scaring yourself. There is a happy place, as you know, collectors, between all or nothing. So if all of that clutter around you is providing this false illusion of abundance, you're not going to allow yourself to be left with nothing anymore. Collectors, you've grown, you've built your business, you're a professional now, you've got a career. You have made yourself into something much bigger than you were when you were younger, and you're not going to let yourself be destitute or starving or afraid again. So if you keep telling yourself, oh, I'm scared, what if I'll never have, the opportunity to buy this or that again, then you're really holding yourself back from living the life that you deserve. You're not going to let yourself live in a stark, bare, cold house, but you don't want to fill it up so much that you can't allow people over. You don't need to have 1,000,000 pairs of scissors to show that you have abundance. You don't need to have 13 blankets and, 200 pairs of shoes to show that you have abundance. You can have a good amount of stuff in your home, still allowing you to have all the things that you really like and allowing you to have friends over. I want you to start changing your thoughts of fear into thoughts of possibility. If you let go of a good amount of items in your house, not all of them, you can have people over. It's not about being a minimalist. It's not about having a completely empty house with no personality. I know you're not like that. Most of my listeners, most of my clients have a lot of personality and they're very eclectic. I'm not saying get rid of anything. Everything. I've never told you guys to get rid of everything. But get rid of what's holding you back, especially the fear. I know you had nothing growing up. You're doing so much better now. You can live a life that you truly deserve with not as much stuff. Okay? Fear, number 5, that's holding you back possibly from getting organized. And I see this a lot. And this can go, throughout all sorts of items in the house. The fear of hurting someone's feelings. It could begin with people offering you things. Your house is full to the brim, but you haven't shared that with your friends or coworkers, so they're always giving you stuff, and you're afraid to say no because you don't want to hurt their feelings. Or maybe you're afraid to say no because you don't want them coming over and you just grab it and you're afraid to even confront that you have clutter in your home. You don't even want to mention it to them, so you don't want to hurt your own feelings. So the fear of hurting someone's feelings will truly hold you back. If you know that your home is maxed out, you don't need to divulge that to your friend, but you can say, no, I already have one of those. Or I really appreciate the thought, but I'm not going to take, these books that you've given me because I've already read them. Or tell them something, but telling people no when they offer you something is not going to hurt their feelings. They might, for a second, think, oh, well, I thought she really wanted that. But they're not going to stay up all night thinking about it, okay? People usually just make offerings and then, people say yes or no. It's okay to say no. I say no all the time. Truly, on every job, people offer me stuff and I say no politely and nobody's feelings are hurt and they're like, whatever. So try it. The next time someone offers you something, especially if you have a ton of them at home, just say, you know what? So-and-so, I really appreciate you thinking about me, but I've got, 7 or 8 vases at home already, and I just don't need another one. But thank you so much. I really find it thoughtful that you thought about me. So try that next time. You might be afraid. So you've already accepted an item, and you might be afraid to hurt someone's feelings if you donate it. This is a big one. Oh, well, so-and-so gave me this sweater. I absolutely hate it, but gosh, it would really hurt her feelings if she knew I donated it. So let's sit with that. I want to kind of pick apart that false belief. So first of all, let's get back to you do not invite people over to your home because of the clutter. So isn't going to come over and not see the sweater that she gave you last Christmas. That's just an excuse to hang on to something. Maybe you kind of like it because someone you like gave it to you. But at this moment in your life, you are living in pure misery with all this clutter around you. So with these hypothetical thoughts of your friend coming over to your house, and you don't even allow her over, to see the one sweater that she gave you last year and or even question about it. I mean, if you even let her over, why do you think that she would hyper focus on something that she gave you a long time ago? I really want you to confront your fear. You're so afraid of hurting people's feelings that you just hang on to items. I mean, if you have items around your home that you don't use and that you don't like, but you're hanging on to them because you are afraid that the person that gave them to you might see you, at the Goodwill that one very moment, donating them. I just want you to really confront that fear. Is it realistic that the person that gave you a vase 5 years ago is going to ask you about it the one time that they come over, hypothetically, to your home? You don't have to call them up and say, hey, I'm donating the vase. Just let it go. And if they're a true friend, and especially if they know about your clutter problem, I really hope that they support you. I really hope that if you do have true friends, that you are able to at least share a portion of what you're going through with them about your clutter. And so if you have a friend and you say, listen, I'm really trying to get organized at home. You don't have to say I'm a hoarder. You don't have to say I can't walk through my house. You could say, listen, I'm really trying to get organized. I'm trying not to bring any more things in. I really, really appreciate you thinking about me, but right now I'm trying to get rid of things, not bring things in. Now, this friend that truly, truly cares about you is really going to honor and appreciate the fact that you opened up to them in such a special way that they won't even really realize that you turned them down. This might open a, wow, well, do you need some help? This might open doors. This might open possibilities. Sharing your fear instead of being afraid of hurting their feelings might help you get organized in the future. You never know, my dear clairvoyant fortune teller collectors. So my guess is after listing these 5 common fears of why it's hard to let stuff go, you might be agreeing that you have at least 1 or 2 or maybe all of these fears. They are very, very common. I only picked 5. There's so many fears. These are my core 5 fears of why collectors are afraid of getting organized. And I left out change. It is okay to be afraid of change. Change is another huge one. It's okay to not be perfect, being afraid of perfectionism. I mean, I could go on with all of the fears that you struggle with that are literally holding you back. And they're just fears. They're not real. They are not legitimate. They are not facts. They are fears. And you've got to face your unrational fears, collectors. So here are 5 tips to help you move past your imaginary fears that are holding you back from getting organized. Number 1, these fears are make-believe. And that is the first thing that you have to tell yourself. Instead of telling yourself you can't, start telling yourself you can. Every time that little crummy voice pops into your head and says, no, you can't tell it. You can't let that go. Tell it to go away before you punch its face in. You've got to be aggressive and face your fears and battle your fears and win. You've got to grab your fears by the throat. You've got to scare them away. The very second that you start even thinking that you can't get organized, I want you to crush that fear. I want you to replace those negative thoughts with ones of gratuity. Try thinking about how grateful you are for having the strength to listen to this podcast, for having the strength to listen to yourself, to your intuition, to get busy, to start decluttering, to get donating. Replace your negative thoughts with ones of gratuity. Tip number 2. If you're feeling afraid that you might need something one day, I invite you to just face that fear and donate it or throw it out. And journal it. Journal it until you get bored about it, forget about it. I mean, if you really need that item again one day, you'll get it again. Truly, collectors, if you haven't used an item in X amount of years, decades, months, just what's the likelihood that you're going to use it anytime soon? Right now, it's just cluttering up your life and holding you back. That fear of needing something one day is holding you back, and I want you to just let it go today. Tip number 3. Are you afraid of being destitute or left with nothing as you once were before? Take a look around, collectors. Look at all of your stuff, honey. You are fooling yourself. You literally have a ton of stuff. You're not destitute. You don't need it all. And you're not going to get rid of it all either, because happiness, my dear collectors, is a place between too little and too much. Tip number 4. Are you afraid of being wasteful? Who's judging you? Is it you? Who will think you are wasteful? What feels worse, collectors? Being wasteful or living in a house full of clutter? Really, really want you to think about that question. What feels worse? Being wasteful or living in a house full of clutter? Give yourself permission to let garbage go. If you can donate items, even better. Stop holding yourself back with guilt and fear over being wasteful. You're allowed to get your life together, no matter what it takes. You deserve it. Your home is not a landfill. It's not a storage unit. So stop hanging on to garbage and items that you don't need because you're afraid of being wasteful. Tip number 5. Are you afraid of hurting someone's feelings? Do you think that special someone would rather you be happy in a home full of love, in a home that's your sanctuary, in a home that you can have peace in, or in the situation that you're in right now? Most of you don't even let people in. So the idea of someone coming in the future, not seeing the item they gave you is completely unrealistic, way far-fetched. Smash that fear. And if you think they're going to be walking through the Goodwill and see that one item that they gave you years ago, you are really fooling yourself too. That's a bunch of baloney. Excuses. Stop letting fear hold you back from the life you deserve. Collectors, if you are listening to this podcast on YouTube, please click like, leave a comment, make sure that you're subscribed. I love hearing from you. And remember, happiness is a place between too little and too much.
This has been Hoardganize with Rachel Seavey. New episodes are available every Sunday at 6 p.m. and also on the Collector Care YouTube channel. Download Rachel's Affirmations for Collectors on iTunes or Amazon.com, or sign up for Rachel's blog at collectorcare.com and receive 7 tips for clutter-free living. Thanks for listening.